Hey, what's going on, guys? So, today I want to talk to you all about something that's been on my mind for a while, which is whether or not Boruto is too talented. Now, I fall on both sides of the spectrum on this. On one hand, I agree with a lot of people that yes, Boruto's too talented. He knows way too many jutsu. Boruto's learning stuff way too quickly. And yet at the same time, I fall on the other end of the spectrum, which is we're following the story of a kid who's essentially a genius. Like Minato was so smart that his genes skipped a generation, and Boruto's just a walking genius. And I think that's something they tried to kind of highlight in the episode where Kakashi was overseeing the Genin exam, and he was telling Boruto, hey, you're clearly on a different level. You're clearly tuning maybe even higher than that in terms of talent, but you're still missing stuff. And that's something that kind of got hammered home again when Sasuke's training Boruto and he's telling like, yeah, you're really good, but you can't learn more high level jutsu until you start mastering the basics of lightning style. And this is the thing with Boruto. I think that he's so talented to the point that he's learning how to use a lot of high level stuff that he hasn't necessarily learned the basics. He hasn't learned his mechanics. And I think that's something that could be interesting. It could be really interesting if they did go through and explore this, where Boruto starts focusing more on how to use his lightning style chakra. And because we have the Boruto anime being willing to take us into the different hidden villages, like how they went to the Hidden Mist village, I think it'd be really interesting if we got an arc where they go to the Hidden Cloud village and Boruto actually trains with somebody, since that village has a lot of lightning style users. If he trained with somebody there and got those basics that Sasuke was learning, those basics that Sasuke was talking about, because when Boruto sees the Chidori, he's like, oh, fuck, I'm going to use that. Yeah, that's going to be cool. I'm going to use that jutsu right there. And it's just like, dude, even if you had a Sharingan, it wouldn't feel right if you just suddenly use that jutsu. That's something that you would have to earn. And the way that the pacing for the anime's gone when it comes to Boruto learning stuff, it's just like we're seeing I guess you could say a teenage version of Minato, where Boruto sees somebody use a jutsu and he says, okay, I think you do it like this, so let me try it by doing it how I saw you do it. And what I'm referring to is like how Boruto sees Mitsuki use wind style chakra, and then he says, yeah, I think I want to try that. And we find out he had trained for several months in the span of like a couple of episodes, because they don't tell us how the time skip even occurred, but a couple of months pass and all of a sudden he knows how to use wind release. And that's something we should have seen Boruto practicing, and that goes back to the payoff. And I think that when people start saying that, well, Boruto's too talented, he's learning things way too quickly, I think it's more so in the fact that we don't actually see him training to learn stuff. And I feel like that's the one mistake that the anime makes, that we need to see him actually training. And even the manga doesn't fully address this. Like, we know that Sasuke's trained Boruto in the years since the Momoshiki arc, and yet we haven't actually seen the training. We've just seen the fruits of it when Boruto's gone on his various missions. And I feel like the anime, because it's weekly and because they have an opportunity to add more layers to the story, I think that at some point we do need to actually slow it down a little bit and put the scope on Boruto and actually go through his training. Like, if you go back to the Naruto story, right? One of the things that made Sasuke feel so earned is the fact that you actually caught a glimpse into the training. You caught a glimpse into his training with Kakashi via that flashback where Gar was spying on him and Kakashi saying you can only use the Chidori twice. We caught glimpses of Itachi's training when Sasuke has his own flashback, so you can appreciate more about how powerful these characters are. And I know a lot of people are a big fan of watching Naruto learn the Rasengan and watch him struggle to learn it. I don't think we're going to see that with Boruto. And the reason being is Boruto is Minato's grandson. He's got Minato's genes. The kid is a genius. That's what Kakashi was getting at when he did the gaining graduation exam. Boruto is a genius. Like, you have to remember, he's the grandson of a guy who saw Tail Beast Ball being fired and said, hey, that's pretty cool. I think I want to create a jutsu that does the same thing. He got the idea of how to do it by watching a tailed beast ball be formed. Granted, it took him 3 years to create it, but he's creating the jutsu. We're not going to see Boruto struggle because when you can break stuff down into steps, he's going to learn it really, really quickly because he just has a natural curiosity and he has a natural affinity for picking things up. And when you have talent like that, it takes a teacher who can push and who can redirect that energy. And I think that's what Sasuke's trying to do by showing him a jutsu that Boruto can never attain because you need the Sharingan to use the Chidori, at least to use it safely. And by showing Boruto something he can't have, it'll force him to kind of work on those basics. Now, the other thing is I feel like when we start looking at, is Boruto too talented? I think we have to look at Team 7. And I think we have to look up at the makeup of Team 7. And one thing that becomes glaringly obvious is that this version of Team 7, they're extremely skilled, okay? They're extremely skilled, but there's an imbalance. There's a huge imbalance. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but I think it's something that needs to be brought up. Yes, they're all extremely skilled. They have multiple changes in chakra nature that they can use. Mitsuki has Sage Mode, Sarada has the Sharingan, Boruto knows a whole bunch of elemental ninjutsu, and he's starting to get the hang of his Karma Seal. But the thing is when you compare this Team Boruto, this version of Team 7, to the gaining teams of the previous generations, there's a glaring gap. And it's not necessarily power, but it's the fact that when you look at the Konoha 11 teams, every character on that team, they served a specific role. They served a specific set of skills that complemented each other. With Team Boruto, it's just like they're just super talented. Like you literally took the 3 most talented students out of that class and you put them on a team together. And it's just like, Sarada has a Sharingan, she has extreme observation. Mitsuki is that quiet observation guy, uses lightning style jutsu, and Boruto, you can just plug him into any different type of situation and you can kind of make things happen. Whereas if you look at the other teams, like when you look at not the Ina Shikachou, but you look at Hinata's team, Team Kurenai, they have the specialty. They're all trackers. Shino can use his bugs. Kiba and Akamaru can use a sense of smell. And Hinata can use a Byakugan to track. When you look at Team Asuma's team, you had the person who could stop the person in his tracks with Shikamaru using his shadow paralysis jutsu. Ino could use mind transfer jutsu. And Choji could attack the person who's kind of stalled out using the shadow paralysis jutsu. And then Choji uses his human boulder to complement with Shikamaru. Every person on a team, even with Team Guy, they all had their specialties. They all had something that directly complemented each other. And with Team Boruto, they have teamwork, they have chemistry. But it's like when you look at the idea of specialists, what is Boruto's specialty? He has if he was an RPG character, he has a whole bunch of different skills that he can use. Like he's got a little bit of magic, he's got a little bit of sword play, he's got a little bit of strength, he's got a little bit of speed, but there's not any one thing. If he was an RPG character, those would be his specialties, that he has a little bit of everything. But what is that one thing that you can say definitively, this is what Boruto Uzumaki's good at? And that's what I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you, what do you think is the one thing that Boruto contributes to Team 7 when it comes to skill set? I don't want to hear anything about character. I want to know, what do you think as far as his skill set? What in his arsenal do you think is the one thing that he offers to the team that makes him unique? It can't be dojutsu because Sarada has dojutsu. Can't be Sage Mode because Mitsuki has Sage Mode. Do you think that his lightning style jutsu is going to be stronger than Mitsuki's? If you think that, go ahead and let me know why. But I'm very interested to hear you guys' comments. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share, and never forget that Senju DNA is love and Senju DNA is life. Have an incredible day, guys.